to order for Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. Welcome to everyone that joined us today. I'd like to start by inviting Terry Wright to come up and give our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Rawls.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take just a minute, and I've already cleared this with the chairman, just to say thank you. Some of you may not know, this will be my last time coming to pray with you guys as an employee. Now I'll be coming as a pastor after this, but I'm as an employee. So I just want to say a few thanks. First, commissioners, I want to thank you. You guys have been overwhelmingly supportive of Veteran Services. You've never wavered, you've never questioned, you have supported us from the beginning to the end. And so thank you for your support, and thank you for believing in our veterans. I want to thank my boss, Mr. Suggs. I have worked in a lot of environments, both in the military and out of the military, and I can tell you without question, Terry has created a phenomenal environment for directors to work in. And so I'm very thankful, Mr. Suggs, for your confidence in me. Thank you for giving me a job. I appreciate that. And it has been a pleasure working with you, Matt and everybody. And I'm not far. I'm just 10 blocks away. So I'll be coming back to persecute you every now and then. Let's pray. Well, Father, thank you for the privilege of working with such fine people. Thank you for allowing me, Lord, to live in such a wonderful community. Lord, thank you for that. And now, Father, as we deliberate the business of the day, I pray that you extend your wisdom to us and guidance to us. Father, I pray that we make decisions that move our county forward in a great direction. Father, be with the men and women who are working right now, doing some dangerous jobs really for our county. Bless them and be with them. Father, be with our veterans as they serve overseas. Watch their sicks. Father, keep them safe and bring them home. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Wright, and thank you, Commissioner Rawls. The Chair will entertain an approval of minutes from the November 11th meeting.
I move for approval.
And November 26th, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Next, we'll recess the Board of County Commission meeting and open the Port Authority meeting. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 11th and September 10th Port Authority workshop.
I'll move for approval of those also.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We have a, let's see, didn't we have a 3C and D? Yeah, I got it right here. Thank you. So it says that we need a resolution certifying that the renovation of Project Play and the county jail laundry facility are necessary and convenient. Is somebody would like to take that one and explain it, or?
Yes, sir, I can. Mrs. Frank asked the question several weeks ago as to whether the Port Authority had the authorization to expend funds on these projects. I asked our interim county attorney, Mr. Komando, to review that, and he suggested that to ensure that everything was done properly, that we draft a resolution which specifies these two projects as necessary and convenient for the Port Authority.
Okay, my only question at this point would be, should that be done by the board to the Port Authority, or for the even though we are the same, should the board of the county commissioners pass this resolution authorizing them, or should the Port Authority board pass that resolution? I don't know which.
The Port Authority board can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Harvey, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question on future projects. My understanding was the Port Authority was able to kind of operate in a more speedily fashion than the Board of County Commissioners. So is this just general housekeeping being a necessary and convenient? Or is that going to be every decision we make as a port authority when we move kind of faster to try to move projects along?
I think to some degree it's going to depend on what the type of project is. I think when you're expending different types of funds, that's the type of thing that you want to make sure you follow your enacting provisions, and this is in conformance with that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pass this resolution in order to certify the 2 projects mentioned above that we're talking about as necessary and convenient.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Question. Legally speaking, what does convenient mean? I was asked that yesterday and the day before.
The way it's written in your enacting documents, that's a determination that is given to the discretion of the authority. So that's part of the reason you have public comment. If there's someone that disagrees with your determination, just like a planning and zoning director makes interpretations of your land development regulations, you would make the determination as to what that means through this process.
So legally speaking, what is the definition of convenient as it applies to this resolution?
Legally speaking, it depends on the context and how it's used. So again, in this context, you would decide if something is, for example, for the benefit of.
Okay. So the way I explained it then was it's convenient to the public because having a splash pad in a playground is convenient to children and families and attracts tourism at some point. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's correct. I mean, like I said, you have the deference and the discretion to decide what that means.
They just asked why we put the term convenient in there. Necessary, and convenient. And I said, I don't know. It's kind of a tough question to field.
That's the actual wording in the ordinance.
Yep. In the ordinance or the legislative intent?
No, actually in the establishing ordinance that established the Port Authority, it lists different types of projects as Rich mentioned. I was trying to find it here.
So do we have to
Things
list
like
those as necessary and convenient in the future?
What was that, sir?
We'll list all of them as necessary and convenient in the future?
Not all of them. It depends on what the type of the project is, because there are certain types of projects that are already listed under the Port Authority for the types of projects that the Port Authority would typically undertake.
Right.
However, there's the clause at the end, and it says any other project deemed to be necessary and convenient.
Okay. So in the past, have we been out of compliance with that then? Is it what I'm hearing? Because this is, that I know of, this language has never been in there, and I'm just wondering if are we just getting in compliance the first time, or just?
It depends on what type of projects were done in the past. I don't know that the Port Authority has ever done, say, a project like this, like a playground renovation and the jail laundry facility. So I think that's the difference.
Jail.
I don't know that the Port Authority funds were used on the jail though. So
it was built on jail property, I guess is the question.
Right. That's
okay. So going forward, we're going to be looking at these. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We'll open the floor for public comment on Port Authority items. Would anybody like to speak on Port Authority items? Seeing none, we'll close public comment on Port Authority. And is there any general discussion that the commissioners wish to entertain today?
Still looking for my response from about 6 months ago requesting a meeting and site visit for Veritas and the rail spur. We can make that happen anytime. Be nice.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we will adjourn the Port Authority meeting and convene the County Commission meeting. And we're going to start with public comment.
Are we going to vote?
Sir?
Are we going to vote?
We did vote.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We voted.
Yes.
You want to vote again?
Do we have to vote as a BOCC on that or no?
Do what?
Okay. I'm confused, I guess, because I thought we were voting to give the authority to BOCC to do that.
Well, that's what I had asked. And
we're not going to?
We did.
The attorney said we just had to do it as the Port Authority board, not as the commissioners. That was the question that I asked.
So then I guess the other question would be, how do we expend the money then? Is it out of BOCC or no, out of Port?
its own
We don't
entity.
transfer it in and,
No, they already have their own money, the port.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, are we gonna transfer it to BOCC and spend it, or just spend it straight at a port?
Straight through the port,
Okay,
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, all right. I'm getting my hats confused right now. I thought the intent was to move the money in so BOCC would run the project and,
I think, if I'm not mistaken, is, Ms. Franks brought it up, that she felt like that in order for us to expend funds in the manner we did, that we needed to pass a resolution that made it crystal clear that in our eyes, we felt like that was necessary and convenient. Convenient? Yeah, convenient. And so that's why they requested us to do it. We've already did the projects and extended the funds. We're just trying to make sure that we're in compliance as much as we possibly can be.
okay. Okay.
Not correct, Rich? Okay.
As a port.
That is correct.
Yeah, right,
As
as
the
a
Port
port
Authority.
authority,
I-
right.
Okay, to me, it just seems like it would be cleaner because we're running the projects. Parks and Recreation is heading up the playground. So I just, for some reason, thought we were gonna be expending it through BOCC. The Sheriff's Department is handling the jail portion. They're the lead in that, but either way, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters in which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed in the meeting room at the entrances and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk over here on my left, your right. I'll start with Allegra Kitchen. Okay. Suzanne Pickens. Okay. Kate Gallagher.
Hey, good morning, y'all. Thank
Morning.
you.
Morning.
So I'm here again. I was at the town hall meeting.
Yeah,
which
would
I
you
think-
give us your name and address
Oh,
for the
thank you.
for the
Kate
record, please?
Gallagher, 1434 Baden-Powell Road, Hawthorne, Florida. So I'm here again to ask y'all to please appoint a task force to address the breaching of the Ocklawaha River Dam. I'm very convinced that absolutely everybody wants to do the right thing with this treasure that we have of the river. There were some things said last at the town hall meeting that I've brought some other information. I'm just convinced we're not on the same page. We're not even talking about the same facts. We're just so stuck into politics as opposed to research. So I brought some research from the St. Johns River Water Management District that contradicts any thoughts that the drawdown impacts lake levels more than 2 miles away. They did some thorough research. It was also alleged that there was no algal bloom in the Rodman Reservoir. Brought research from the Florida Department of Environmental Department saying that's not true. They had a bloom May 16th of 2019. And also where it was alleged that the water in the Rodman Reservoir is potable, we're getting that tested because the last time FDEP tested was 2017. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, I'm trying to say we are not talking about the same facts. We have this treasure. Can we sit down and talk and look at the research and look at where we are so we can go forward? We really just have this great treasure. And there's all kinds of ecotourism going on right now with the drawdown, which brings up the question, why can't we keep the drawdown? So thank you. Anything I can do to help with appointing a task force, I'd be very happy to do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question?
Yes, sir.
If you had a task force, how would you envision it?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I'm thinking we definitely need science people. We definitely need people from Save Rodman. We definitely need people from some of the environmental groups, because we're just talking at each other.
Is that not something you can do on your own?
No. No, I actually tried to engage somebody with Save Rodman online, and it just got rhetorical. And things get said that just the research doesn't support. And I really totally trust that we all want to do the right thing for our county. There's huge amounts of money per research in ecotourism with breaching the dam. The state plan is to partially breach the dam. So can we talk? Can we, I don't know. We need science. We need data. And we need to just be with each other and stop the politics. Yes, sir.
I'm not, again, I talked to you earlier.
Yeah.
It's not politics. You are aware there are about 1,000 people a day moving to Florida.
Yes.
We are a unique state that is surrounded by salt water with fresh water in the center, and there's only so much of that fresh water. And as in the south area, as they use more water in their area, they're causing saltwater intrusion. Why they haven't gone to desalination down in those areas, like they're trying to force everybody into the septic systems.
Right.
That's another issue. But they are building reservoirs to hold fresh water because we will be out of water. We have a reservoir that was built there. And I understand where you're coming from. I am one of those that travels all over our county. I have my Jeep and I go out into these areas. I see these areas. But I also look at the realistic part of it. There are areas that I hunted as a kid around here that are no longer able to. There are homes there. That doesn't mean I want to see all those homes destroyed so I can go back to hunting those areas. Actually, I'm not going to go hunting anymore except at Publix. But the point is that reservoir is there. And that fresh water that flows in there, it is held like a bathtub, and then it flows over. So that fresh water is not held captive. It goes on and goes up the river and goes out into the ocean, which is what all rivers do, by the way. That fresh water goes out into the ocean. We really need to think about that. I understand where you're coming from, and I think you need to have your own task force. The Save Rodman people have theirs. And I'm not trying to get on either side. What I'm saying is water is an essential item that we need to be careful of, and we have it sitting there. It's sitting there if we ever need it. That reservoir is usable. So I think you need to have your own task force, and again, it's not politics. To me, it's just realistic. You need to have your task force. They have their task force, and we as a politician will have to do what's going to be in the best interest of the citizens, depending on what they want. But this is not something I believe this commission needs to be on one side or the other than we have a personal view. My personal view is we got to have that water, and I want to keep that water. I'm sorry.
No, and I'm not an expert at all. What I'm suggesting, two sides are not talking to each other, and we need that for consensus. We need that for resolution. Y'all are in a position to facilitate that. The evaporation that comes off the reservoir is huge. The Hendrickson study from, I don't know if it was 2016, 2017, clearly states that there's more water with the drawdown because the springs produce more water. It's complicated. I am not an expert. But anyway, I would like us.
I know I've heard about the evaporation. Realize there's more water that dumps out into that ocean than ever evaporates off of that.
I'm just asking you to please come up with a task force so we can help our county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is, I think it's Arlen Brewer. If you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. Name is Arlen Brewer. I live at 102 Carriage Terrace in Palatka. Been there for 38 years. Been in Putnam County for 42 years. I'd like to address this Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. Here a while ago, we all stood and pledged allegiance to that flag and to the republic for which it stands. And now we're discussing passing a resolution that's going to make us go against that republic, if it ever came to that. I don't think it ever will, but there is going to be a change to gun control. There's going to have to be sooner or later. I don't think any of us will ever have to give up our guns unless we do something illegal. But basically, we need to think about the unity of our country. I mean, Putnam County is part of the state of Florida. Florida, of course, is part of the United States. And if we don't stand as a country and a nation, we're not going to stand forever, that's for sure. So we need to think about that. And I like to think about the divisiveness that this amendment is going to, or this resolution could cause. Our sheriff's department, all of our law enforcement people are sworn to uphold the laws of the county, the state, and the federal government. Now, if we're going to go a resolution or amendment to saying that we aren't going to observe laws that come out of Washington, we're going to make these people in a quandary. Who are they going to support? Are they going to support Putnam County, or are they going to support the laws? And I mean, it's hard to foresee this, but the time could come when the United States does pass some gun control laws, and here in Putnam County we say we're not going to enforce them. So they decide, well, we're going to make Putnam County enforce these laws. Now, what kind of a quandary is that going to put in front of us? They're going to call out the National Guard to come into Putnam County borders and say, you will enforce these laws. All our good gun owners are going to stand at the boundaries of the county and say, no, you're not. It's food for thought. Basically, the third thing that bothers me most about this is that we're making a statement about Putnam County that says we're a bunch of good old boys. We're going to do what we want. And I don't care if the OUs up in Washington pass laws saying they're going to control our guns and that. We're not going to do it. I don't think that's the kind of statement we want to see in Putnam County. And then there's the internal strife that it causes in the county. So we've got a few cities that don't want to be a Second Amendment sanctuary, Crescent City or even Palatka, Interlochen. So now we've got strife within the county. We've got cities that don't want to be and the county wants to be. That's my feelings on it. And I hope everybody gives it some serious thought, deeper than what it sounds like. I mean, it sounds good on the surface, you know. We're going to protect our gun rights, make sure that the federal government says we can't have them anymore. But there's a lot more to it involved, and we really need to think about that. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Allegra, I know you're here for the Second Amendment one, and so it's going to be pulled by either one of them or me. So, Suzanne, I just want to make sure the one that you're here for is pulled. What? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a different one and it didn't get pulled and you were waiting. So, okay. Next is Ed Killebrew.
Good morning. My name is Ed Killebrew. I reside at 146 Barden Estate Circle, Palatka, Florida. After much thought and prayer about what I'm fixing to talk about, I decided to come on. I'm picking it a scab. But no, I'm not. I'm not going to say I'm picking it a scab. What I thought was going to be a scab is still very much an open wound. I attended the meeting of y'all's special call board meeting last Tuesday morning. And I, as a man, want to come and talk to you as county commissioners and men. Mr. Rawls, I didn't agree with you at all in the language you used in that meeting. I've sat and watched you sometimes almost act like a bully that I remember from a gym room and talking to your other county commissioners. It upset me, and this is coming from my heart. We, as Putnam County, have been laughed at before because of our county commissioners. We had a county commissioner one time before that sat in his chair, took naps, ate Kentucky Fried Chicken from a bucket, and was all over the news. And it was, I mean, you know, how do we come back from that? Well, we've moved forward, we move forward. That tirade you went into on Tuesday morning, that was, I mean, you know, whatever you choose to say, that's your business. We're in America, that's freedom. But as a child, I was taught by my mother and father, when there's ladies in the room, you treat them as such. You treat them as such. I read your definition in the paper of the word that you used. And that's not I understand that definition, but I truly believe that was not in your heart when you came at the chairman. All he did was try to correct you as you were chiding the staff. They were trying to answer and you just kept rolling over them. You just kept rolling over them. You rolled over Mr. Suggs. Yes, Mr. Suggs is a personal friend of mine. I'll go ahead and get that out in the public eye. He is a friend of mine. And by that, I know him as a man of integrity. He's not perfect. The Bible says in Romans 3:23, we all sinners, or we all sin. No, not one of us don't. So I'm not saying he's perfect. But as a commissioner, to me, that's the man you go to, not Mr. Reynolds, not Mr. Nimitz, not Julianne. You go to him and ask the questions. They were answering your questions, and you chose not to listen. You chose to run right on over them and ask another question. I was there. I was a witness. This isn't hearsay. I saw it. So, you know, I just wanted to get this on the public record, how I felt. Because, I mean, you know, we should be gentlemen and ladies in the public eye. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed.
Mr. Chairman, if I could address Mr. Kilby, please. Mr. Kilby, if you'd like to stand up here or not. Ignorance is not always bliss. You are absolutely incorrect. I used the word properly. I could have substituted the word jerk and said, quit being a jerk to me. The bully in the room was Mr. Turner when he was trying to shut me down. And his rhetorical question to me was, which brought on the comment, are you saying you want to slow this project down? At no point did I ever say I want to slow the project down. I'm not going to enter into a debate with you over what's in your heart. The vulgarity in your heart is yours to own, not mine. If you took the comment to be vulgar, I'm sorry. That's the way you were raised, not the way I was raised. Growing up all over the world the way I did, I've heard that put in many different ways. Now, regarding the staff, the question that I asked was going to design build, which staff does not want to entertain the conversation on. This commissioner wants to look at all potentials and possibilities that we can use to save money for the taxpayers, be innovative in areas that we can be. But I will not be chided or egged on or pushed around by a bully in the room of anybody, whether it's Mr. Turner, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Pickens, Mr. Goddard, Mr. Suggs. I was elected by these people to do a job. In 2022, the public will have a decision to make whether or not I've represented them well, but the same amount of anxiety and frustration you feel, I feel. It's on both sides. And yes, sir, I am a gentleman, and I do know how to conduct myself, but I will not be bullied and pushed around. And I understand that these are your friends, and that you and I live on opposite ends of the spectrum. There's no doubt about it. We've had these conversations numerous times. But to stand here in a public forum and chastise me as if you're God Almighty, I completely disagree with, and you're right. We are all sinners.
While I appreciate the conversation, guys, or it's all right. Man, let's just end this. You're not going to change his mind.
That's fine. I just came back up to address him. I mean, not address him, for him to address me.
All right.
I apologize for turning my back.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person is, and just to let y'all know that I've grown, 3 weeks ago I would have addressed those comments a little differently than just leaving them. So, I'm going to ask Douglas Hayes to come forward.
Hi there. My name's Douglas Hayes.
Good
I live
morning.
at 216 Hilltop Road, Satsuma, candidate for County Commissioner, District 3. Going to be a little off topic, only because I don't think I can be here for your workshop. But in regards to the firefighters, I hear tell that may be part of your conversation. Had a chance to maybe see somebody that we can model after, which is the Windsor Fire Department, which is over right across Hawthorne over there. And turns out that FEMA, they call it the ASG grant. And it is a complete grant funding system for training our volunteer firefighters. Mm-hmm. So we have some monies available. Apparently we may not be employing that. The other thing is I'd like to address on a concept, because it turns out that you've got based on training and what they can do, whether they're paid or volunteer. And one way that we can kind of hybrid a little bit, but I'm really into wanting to restore the volunteer fire system. But the difficulty from talking to different firehouses is getting volunteers as a whole. But anyway, we need to have a proactive recruitment process, whether it is for full-time firefighters or volunteers, and then to establish the Bucket Brigade, which would be a third-party entity that can do fundraising. One of the things I had discovered is that the Windsor Firehouse has a festival, and it's a fundraiser. They own their own trucks. Festivals are one of the draws for our county and for our different communities. I discovered that the Shiitake Mushroom Festival, when Interlochen was going to have that as a brand, has been moved. Good going. But we still had it. Oh man, I got 59 seconds. The other thing too is money, 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 money. Okay, I've provided over a dozen different grant opportunities and funding mechanisms to our county administrator's office. One of them was the Walmart Foundation. It was a $5,000 grant, 5 different categories. One could have been put towards our park system perhaps. And it was, deadline was the 31st of December. Grant was not filled out. We can afford a lobbyist, but we cannot afford a grant writer. We're missing out on a lot of opportunities because we don't have a good grant writing system. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Douglas.
Mr. Chairman?
You got it turned off?
Let the record show that Mr. Hayes finished with 21 seconds left in the bank.
I saw that.
Mr. Hayes, thank you. And I'm not making fun of you.
It's a miracle.
I'm not making fun of you at all. Thank you.
I think you need to give him a credit for next time.
We'll give you a 2-minute, 21-second credit next time.
Thank you, Douglas. Usually, when we take something off of consent, I need to ask the board for what they want to do. Usually, when we take something off the consent agenda, we don't open it back up for public comment. We have at least 2 people here that want to talk about one of the items on the consent agenda. Is it all right with the commission that we let public comment carry on to that particular item when it's pulled?
I have no objection.
Or do you want to do it now?
I have no objection.
I have no objection.
Okay, then we'll do that then. With that being said, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items that commissioners wish to pull? Commissioner Pickens, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, item F.
F, okay. Commissioner Harvey?
I have none.
Commissioner Goddard?
I have none.
Commissioner Rawls? Good. Okay, I need to pull item E. And the chair will entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pass the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R.
And G.
You have G in there too?
G, yeah, I put G in there. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
and
G. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Excuse me. Item E is the reappointment of Shirley Griffin to the Putnam County Better Place Plan Committee. And the only reason that I pulled this is it said in the agenda item that she was chairperson. She has been a chairperson for 10 years, I think, and done a fabulous job, but I think at their last meeting, they conned Bo Brewer into doing it, so hopefully y'all take that as a sense of humor. But I want to thank her for her service, and I'm absolutely for her being appointed back to the committee, and thank you for doing it. I just needed to clear up that she wasn't the chairperson now. Bo Brewer was. She's the vice chairman, I believe. So the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item E with the exception of Shirley is not the chairperson right now.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? I have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Shirley. And the next one would be item F, the Second Amendment resolution. So, Mr. Pickens, did you want to start with that, seeing how you pulled it, or would you like to just chime in at a different point and let the public speak?
I'm going to chime in and then hear the public speak, and I'll probably make a few more comments.
Okay.
I want to make it clear to everybody here, everybody that's going to that's watching this and will watch this, that I am supportive of the Second Amendment. But I also want to understand that this is a very important decision to make for our county. And I understand that we did discuss this at a workshop, and we decided to move this forward. I really felt that it was going to come back to a workshop at some time before we would vote on it for public comment. I believe we need public comment for or against this. So that's where I'm coming from. So I feel, as this commissioner, I am prepared to vote today if this commission chooses to vote. And I'm comfortable with the vote that I'll make. But I still believe that this commission owes the citizens of Putnam County the opportunity to bring this back to a venue to where we can hear public comment, where it can be duly advertised, maybe at the next I don't think we need to push it too far down the road, but maybe at the next quarterly meeting at night to be able to discuss this and hear public comment. So those are my comments for right now.
Anybody else like to speak before I take public comment on this particular item?
I would. I echo your sentiment exactly, and I was going to pull this for that reason. I was kind of shocked that we went from a very vague conversation at workshop to we're going to try to approve this on the consent agenda. But I would support putting this in front of the public at a later date so we could hear both sides of the equation. And I personally would be ready to vote in favor of what's written. But just like this gentleman has a difference of opinion, I have not heard that much from the public. A couple of comments that I had was, why are we not having a public hearing on this? But I really do think that it would be a good opportunity for us to hear from the public on this matter before we make our decision.
Thank you, Mr. Rawls. Mr. Rawls. Legger, do you want, or Ms. Kitchen, do you want to come forward and do your comments?
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I was at your previous workshop, and I think it might have been duly advertised because I found out about it by reading about it in the Palatka Daily News. There was a pretty full room there, and I think about 5 to 6, maybe 8 people spoke in favor of you passing this. That being said, when I registered to vote on February the 16th, 1968, when I was sworn into office in 2006 and 2012, I put my hand on a Bible and swore to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. I don't take these oaths lightly, nor should you. Your first duty as an elected official is to uphold the Constitution of the United States. The Florida legislature violated their oath of office when they passed Florida's Risk Protection Order, or red flag gun law, in March of 2018. This law violates the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which gives citizens the right to bear arms, as well as violates the 4th and 14th Amendment, which gives citizens the right to due process. President Thomas Jefferson said, "The laws that forbid the carrying of arms are of such a nature, they disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes." Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides, for an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. President Jefferson's statement holds as true today as when he said it, as these mass shootings only take place in gun-free zones. When state law violates the U.S. Constitution, it is your duty as elected officials to stand up for the Constitution. Making Putnam County a Second Amendment sanctuary county shows your support of our United States Constitution, our God-given right to self-defense, and our right to due process. By voting to make Putnam County a Second Amendment sanctuary county, you are fulfilling your oath of office. Please vote yes to make Putnam County a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Thank you.
Thank you, Allegra. Ms. Pickens, would you like to come forward now?
Suzanne Pickens, 1706 Carr Street, Palatka, Florida. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, staff, and concerned citizens, I'm here because I believe that the information that the public has been provided has not been entirely accurate regarding what such a resolution can and cannot accomplish, and whether it is actually more than a policy statement with no teeth. I also believe the main rationale for passing the resolution has been why not, when the first question regarding anything affecting our county should be why is this the best thing for all our citizens. I don't believe there are really any hard facts to offer as to why sanctuary status enhances the quality of life. The concept is relatively new, and I don't believe has ever been tested. The constitutionality has never, so far as I could find, been challenged or upheld in court. Finally, I feel that an issue with the potential to be emotionally and politically charged deserves to be heard and discussed with more public input than allowed a consent agenda item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there anybody else of the public that would like to speak on this issue? Okay, seeing none, I guess. Yes, Commissioner
I'd like to say, I took that same oath, Ms. Kitchens, that you did, and I believe in the Constitution. Mr. Brewer, you asked this board earlier, who was I going to support? I'm going to stand with this country and support our Constitution. We have radicals in Washington, D.C. that want to take our rights away. And I'm going to tell you, all the guns I own are exactly where I left them at last night. They didn't run off and go kill somebody and come back on their own. Right now, what worries me is we have a radical far-right group in Washington, D.C. that would make no apology for taking our guns and make sure they know that. This commissioner has given this community time. I've heard from the community, and I'm ready to vote today in affirmative of this support and supporting the Constitution of this great United States of America. Don't mean if you have a different opinion from me, that's fine. But I stand and support that, and I'm going to support the gun rights for the people of Putnam County. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Before I move on to Commissioner Goddard, because I know he's going to have something to say, I'd just like to say that I was quoted in the paper as I think I'm for it. That's an accurate quote, but I'm not. I don't think I'm for it. I'm emphatically for it. I think that it's the thing that we needed to do to protect the rights that we have and our respect for the Second Amendment. So I'm for it. I also sat on the school safety committee when they invited me to sit on it, and we recommended to the school system that they arm their teachers and they arm their staff and they instigate the Guardian program. I still think that was a good recommendation to them, and I'm ready to move this forward. And I think it's the first time that I ever wasn't hooked at the hip with Commissioner Pickens over anything that he said, but I think I'm ready to move this forward this morning and vote on it depending on what the other commissioners want to do. Commissioner Goddard.
Thank you. Anybody who knows and has talked to me know I stand on this very strongly. I did not take this stance lightly. I did a lot of research on this. I did talk to a lot of the police officers. I did talk to the mental health people, and the problem is not your guns. Your problem is your mental health problem, and I'd love to see that corrected. But until you can guarantee me that these weapons are taken out of the hands of the bad people, I'm going to push 100% for our constitutional right to have and bear arms. I wished it didn't have to be that way. I really, really do. I wished we did not have to have the place for battered women to go. I wished we didn't have to have that. I wish we didn't have the traffic accidents that we had. I wish we could train people to drive better than they do. Unfortunately, that's not our world. In our world, you drive that car, you better drive defensive. That does not mean there's not going to be bad drivers on that road. That means you have to protect your family. You have to drive that vehicle correctly. You train your children how to drive that vehicle and how to be defensive. If you don't want to have a weapon in your house, you should not have a weapon in your house. But honestly, you're going to want to protect. If that window gets broken at 3 o'clock in the morning, what are you going to do? You're going to call somebody to bring a weapon to your house? Or are you going to have some way to protect your house? And I don't want to keep going on and on. It's like trying to convince me there is no God. You'll never, ever, ever, ever do it. You will never convince me that you cannot or should not protect your family at any cost. You just can't. And this amendment, I've looked at it. Our constitutional right does need to be protected. I don't think it's ever going to come to that one, but I do want the people of Putnam County to rest assured that we're doing everything to protect your constitutional right. And please, I need to stop because I can go on and on about this issue. This issue is an important issue that we need to really think about. It is our fundamental rights to have these weapons.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Pickens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Kitchen, I probably spoke a little bit out of turn. All our meetings like that are duly advertised. I want one advertised in a little longer period of time. Gentlemen, I want to clarify myself, make everybody in this room understand that I'm for the Second Amendment. And I'm not against this. All I'm asking is to push this down the road just a little bit to allow public comment. Commissioner Rawls has come in and preached and preached and preached about public comment, okay? People, I told my sister last night I was sick of transparency. Gotta be transparent. That's all I'm asking. I'm prepared to vote, guys, okay? And I'll be comfortable with my vote. But I think we owe it to the citizens of Putnam County to have a meeting where this is on the agenda, where we can hold public comment. And I truly believe that the majority of the comment is going to be positive for this. But that doesn't mean that you don't allow people who maybe have a different side to it. But I think everybody needs to understand what this will do and what it won't do, so nobody has a false sense of security about exactly what this will do. And I don't think anybody's going to come take our guns, my house. I got 10 of them, okay? Every bit of 10 of them. I don't think anybody's going to come get them this month or next month. And it may be down the road. So that's all I'm asking, is this board to consider having a meeting where this is on the agenda, where people could come and give their opinion, and then we vote. And if not, I'm ready to vote today.
Is that a motion?
So I'll make a motion that we move.
Just Commissioner Goddard would like to speak.
I would, because I have had the privilege of being on this board for 3 years, and I value everybody's opinion up here, and Mr. Pickens does not make decisions lightly. So I'm not going to change my idea on this, but I think maybe we should follow Mr. Pickens' direction. That may not be such a bad idea.
Thought I'd turned yours off. Mr. Harvey.
You know, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Pickens, for your passion on that. I do, though, feel that the public has had the time. The public has sure contacted me. The public has sure wrote on Facebook as much as they want. The public is here today. The public was at our workshop. And I think it's just time that we join our neighboring counties and our other counties in support of our Constitution. And I'm ready to make a motion when that time comes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think Commissioner Pickens was asking for the floor, and so
Yeah,
I'll turn it back over to him.
And again, I want everybody in this room to understand that I support the Second Amendment. And I truly hope that my children will hand my grandfather's and my father's guns down to their children and grandchildren. So my mind is pretty made up. That's why I said I'll vote today, but I truly believe that, and I'd like to make the motion that we move this to another meeting, maybe the third Tuesday, or even probably the evening meeting, if y'all are agreeable with that. And if we don't want to push it back that far, I just think we need to have a meeting where it's advertised, where we have more public input. I can't believe that there's not 50 people that want to speak on this one way or the other. Right. And we don't have 50 people here today. So that would be my motion, to move an agreeable meeting in the near future.
How about the 28th? That'll give everybody 2 weeks to rally, and we'll put it on the agenda as an agenda item, not on the consent agenda. Okay, on the 9 o'clock meeting? Yeah, this one here this morning. So we'll do it on television. Okay. 2 weeks, is that good with everybody? Is that your motion? Yep. I make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second that we're going to table this consent agenda item until the 28th, but not, even though we retable it, we want it re-advertised to the public, even though we're just tabling it to the next meeting.
As a standalone item.
As a standalone item, yes, sir. Does that suit everybody? Was that what the motion was? Yes. That's what the second was? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and motion carries. Okay. So that one was tabled. Yeah. Next, we're going to have, y'all want to take a 5-minute recess before we get into the code enforcement requests? Let's do a 5-minute recess.
You got appointments too.
Where's your phone at?
On the agenda, our code enforcement, Mitra, if you would take it from there, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Item A on the code enforcement agenda is a fine reduction request for code case 2009-72. Property owner's name is James P. Hoke. Property address is 127 Oak Lane, Palatka, Florida. Violations were outside storage, accessory use without main use, and original fine for this case was $87,550. After calculating all the hard costs, my staff recommendation for fine reduction is $1,693. Just to give you a little bit case summary, the case was started back in 2009, excuse me, with the previous owner. Ownership changed in May of 2014. The case is ongoing for 10 years. For the new owners, it takes 5 years to comply. Demolition permit was finalized in June 2019, and all the other issues were complied at the same time.
Thank you, Mitra.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak in favor of this case? Seeing none, commissioners, I would entertain discussion or a motion.
I don't see a discussion. Or you want to discuss this?
Well, in the past, we've waived the administrative monthly fee. I'm just wondering if there might be an opportunity to reduce that some more. you know, the gentleman's from out of state, he inherited the property, and it sounds like do you agree that he immediately took action? It says he immediately took action.
It took him 5 years after
Okay,
he got the
I see.
ownership. Yes, sir.
After ownership, okay.
He
I'm good.
purchased in 2014.
I'm good.
Commissioner Goddard?
Okay, that's what I said. 5 years, we have in the past, this is one of the things we're looking for. They took care of the demo. However, they did not do this in a speedy, it looked like they drug their feet. I'm ready to say they paid the $1,693 in 30 days.
We usually did 90 days in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
I think, Commissioner, if you will hold your motion, or would you like to go ahead and make that motion, and then I'll see if we have a second, and then we'll just take it under discussion?
Okay, we'll do that. I'll make a motion that we accept $1,693 in 90 days.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second under discussion. Commissioner Pickens, you had your light on.
Yeah, Mitra, did you have any conversation with this gentleman? Is he okay with this reduction, or is he wanting a further reduction?
We do send them notice of hearing with this amount as a staff recommendation. We do send a certified mail, which he did receive. So he's aware of the amount. That's what it will be reduced to. He didn't ask anything further. No, sir.
Personally, if I had a fine on my property of $87,550 that went over many years and it got reduced down to a little under $1,700, I'd be tickled.
Pretty happy myself.
Yes,
so yeah, yeah. So I'm with Commissioner Goddard. I think with the length of time, he is doing what we want him to do.
Yes, sir.
So I'm in agreement of the motion. So,
Commissioner Harvey.
Yeah, I'd like to go. You said this new owner had 5 years.
Yes, sir.
That's 60 months, not 124 months. So could we not possibly cut that administrative fee in half? I mean, because it really, you said he had 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And historically, we can't hold the guy responsible for his grandfather 5 years prior. I mean.
Yes, sir.
So, and it's in compliance and it's cleaned up, and historically this board has looked at trying to reduce that down. I read the guy's situation, and
yes,
and naturally trying to come down here, rent a place, clean it up, got kids. God knows we've all been there, but you know, at least it's cleaned up, and that's what we want. So
We can cut it in half. It's
well,
up to you all.
there's a motion on the floor. I don't know if they want to take that up. I'm just saying because the new owner is now 5 years, not the 124 months
Yes, sir.
that was listed on the paper.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Goddard, would you be willing to amend your motion to reduce that down to the 5 years, the $600 versus the $1,240? Or you not?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's fine.
I look at this for 5 years. You did not. I mean, we have spent. Go back through the thing here. How many visits we've gone out there? How many things we've done? How many letters we've sent? And I agree. We've got it down there, but
What are you saying? Is this right here?
this is just.
61?
Okay.
Yeah, we're all right. I'm gonna get in here if I could, guys, and I think this is plenty fair enough, guys, and I understand it takes time to go through this situation, especially when I was chairman of the Codes Board back when they had one years ago. Almost every case revolved around someone not having enough money or not having enough time, and so that's where a lot of these cases get big. As long as somebody's working on them steady and what have you, then I think a fine reduction is in order. And I really think Commissioner Goddard and I think Commissioner Rawls is definitely on track here. That I think that's very generous of us to give him that amount. So with that being said, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next case.
Okay. Next item on the code enforcement agenda, item B, fine reduction request for code case 2010-240. Property owner is Bobby Cartwright. Property address is 120 Florida Lane, Crescent City, Florida. This property was cited for trash and debris. The original fine amount was $1,550. After calculating the numbers, my recommendation for fine reduction is $541. Just to give you a little bit case history on this case was started in February of 2010. The compliance was achieved in August of 2010. Case was only open technically for 6 months, and after that, the previous owners didn't pay the accrued fine for that 6 months. The new owner, when he bought the property, he came in and he paid. There was another lien on the same property. The new owner paid that lien in full, which was close to $2,200. And on this one, if you see on the administrative part, I only put 6 months, because if I put all 10 years of months, then the fine reduction would actually go up than the original fine amount. So I just put the 6 months when the case was out of compliance. So my recommendation is $541 fine reduction for this case.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the fine reduction as set at $541.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. I don't think anybody's here that wants to discuss the case that I could see. So normally we would have, I think, that level of public discussion, but I don't think there's anybody here. But I'm going to ask, is there anybody here from the public that wishes to speak on this case? Seeing none, thank you for the valid motion, Commissioner Rawls, and the second, Commissioner Pickens. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I do just have a comment that it didn't have any bearing on my decision, but I know Mr. Cartwright, and Mr. Cartwright has purchased a lot of properties in East River Park and has really brought them out of the code situation and repaired them, either sold them or rented them. So he's really doing a great job in South Putnam for us. So
yes, sir.
I just want to make that comment.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pickens. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mitra.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to item 7, comments from the Clerk of Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 items I'd like to comment on today. First, today is the beginning of the legislative session, and I want to send best wishes to our Representative Payne, and to Senator Perry. But as I was driving in today and thinking about that, I think back on the history of representatives from our county, going back to Kelly Smith and Joe Pickens and now Bobby Payne. Of course, I call them Kelly, Joe, and Bobby because they're friends of mine, and that's how we want it to be. I know that they'll be facing difficult challenges and issues, but we know that Putnam County will be represented well with their efforts, and so certainly want to wish them well on that. Also, I actually live on property in East Palatka that belonged to Senator B.C. Pierce. He was a senator from Putnam County back in the 40s and 50s, and so I have a personal connection to every day of knowing people that dedicated their lives to public service, and so I'm thankful for that. And actually, there's a mural of him down on the wall beside Badcock's. So I never fail when I go down St. John's Avenue, or up St. John's Avenue, I should say, that I look over there and think how fortunate I am to live in such a great place. And I know I hear Commissioner Goddard speak about this all the time, about how fortunate we really are, and I believe that every day. Secondly, I had some construction work done on my house. The inspector came yesterday, Charlie, and I mentioned this to Mr. Chiaffi today, that I was extremely impressed with the professionalism of the service that was offered by the building and planning department. They called and said they were on their way. They got there when they said they would be there. They treated the house with respect and did their work, and I just wanted to commend him for that great service, and I know that that's what he expects, and I was thankful to receive. So those are my comments. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Hey, Jay, tell him he's the teacher's pet now. Thank you for those kind remarks for the building department. I'm sure they sure like it after sometimes catching hard times. So good job, John, and please pass that to your staff too. Okay. Next, we'll move into appointments. Does the board have any appointments? I'll start with Commissioner Rawls.
Yes, sir. I have two. So it'll be on Parks and Recreation. I'd like to add Lucas Bennett. And the Zoning Board of Approval, Joe Theobald.
ZBOA?
Yes.
Okay.
State that again. What were they?
Lucas Bennett on the Parks and Recreation, and moving Joe Theobald from Parks to ZBOA.
Okay, because those are district appointments, they don't have to be voted on, so thank you for those appointments, Commissioner Rawls.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
You've spoken with Joe Theobald?
Yes, he actually encouraged it.
Okay.
And then I asked him if he could recommend a really good replacement, and he gave me Mr. Bennett's information. Mr. Bennett reached out to me and said, yes, he would love to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I hate to lose Joe. There's no question. He'll be a solid addition to the ZBOA.
Yep.
And then Lucas Bennett, he is involved in the school system also, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, he'll be an asset. So good. You know, since I chair that committee, I'll make sure I've got. And your daughter's doing a great job also. So, anyway, all right, thank you.
You know he's a good member when the chairman fights for him when he's on his way out.
If we could cut him up and split him up in 4 pieces, that'd make it even easier.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Commissioner Goddard, do you have any?
No, I have none.
Commissioner Pickens?
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey?
I have none.
Yeah, I have none this time either. We'll move to item 9 on the agenda, which is county administrator comments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Prior to moving to my comments this morning, I don't know if we need to discuss this here this morning, Vice Chairman Harvey, but on the agenda is a resignation from the canvassing board. Okay, so we may need to discuss the an appointment of a new canvassing board member for the upcoming election. I see Mr. Overturf in the audience this morning, and I'm sure he loves sitting in our meetings, but he's probably got something
that
he
needs
needs to ask.
Is that something the board does or the chair does? Didn't the chair, when the year that you were in there, didn't you appoint a lady to be your backup?
Stella, Miss
But it wasn't you that did the appointment, or was it the board?
Actually, it was a board thing.
Okay. It's all right with me either way.
Voted on it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Was that a?
I see Mr. Overturf in the audience, and I knew we had a resignation on the agenda, and I didn't know if Mr. Overturf needed to address the commission for any needs that he may need for his upcoming election cycle.
Consent agenda?
It is.
Okay.
Down there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Terry, you are exactly correct. It is, according to state statute, the board chairman is the one that actually puts the name out. Now, I think you all still vote on it to make sure, but you are right. Buddy did that when he was the chairman. I found something yesterday, and I just wanted to, if you didn't mind, give me just a second to go back over this. This was from our previous county attorney, Stacy Manning, and we ran into this same situation 4 years ago when we kept having problems with keeping the canvassing board enough people. And he did his research, and it says actively participant in a campaign. And I just wanted to go back over what he went through just to help you as you think about who to put. He's taken this directly from the Division of Elections, and it says the director went on to describe the sorts of activities that have been interpreted by the division as falling within the definition of active participation. And there's 7 of them. Publicly endorsing a candidate, displaying a candidate's campaign signs, soliciting votes for a candidate, wearing a campaign t-shirt or other public support of a candidate. Number 5, signing an endorsement card for a candidate. 6, attending a candidate's campaign fundraiser. and 7, chairing or co-chairing an ongoing election campaign or a fundraiser for that candidate. And these are all deemed by the Division of Elections as violations that eventually would get us in court, and we would end up losing that. So I thought I'd read that to you just to help us to say, okay.
That's during the time that they're actually a member of the canvassing board.
Exactly.
So if they did it 2 weeks ago and agreed not to do it anymore, then they're good.
Right, and we ran into this before when Commissioner Harris was, and she had given some wood campaign materials to Commissioner Pickens, but she did it before she was ever appointed, and that was after Commissioner Lible felt like he needed to step down because he was active. And so we ran into that 3.5 years ago, but it doesn't affect anything previous. The real ironic thing is you as a individual can give money to a candidate, and the Division of Elections does not believe that crosses the criteria, because you can give it to other candidates too. So it's not the money per se, but it's a fundraiser. It's anything else that is publicly, where I know, okay, I know Commissioner Harvey really likes so-and-so and he's helping, that kind of thing. And that's where we get into that problem. So anyway, we just, as you all are
Charles,
thinking about that.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have enough time to give me 2 weeks to try to come up with somebody that might fit this, or would that be okay?
Yeah, we do, because Commissioner Harvey was the alternate. Commissioner Rawls is the active member, and we've already had our first meeting, and with the attorney, Don Holmes, was present, so we had everybody that needed to be there. It's just that if Commissioner Rawls has another, and he came a little bit late because he was chairing another meeting that he had to do, so technically it's that person that if you were his the alternate, and he knew he couldn't be there that day, he should let you know, and then you would come in his place. So it helps to have somebody, and I'm not saying right now we don't have another meeting for about 3 weeks. So
okay, I'll try to have somebody to present to the board at the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from today, and have a name to present to them. Commissioner Harvey, did you have your button?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I do think it's important to let the public know and to let our board members know. I have really toiled with this for a long time. And I said it earlier, when I look at the state of our nation, I just can't sit back and not be involved. And I can't make the promise that I won't sign a petition card or I won't put a sign out, because I will. And I know I'm going to do that. I cannot see our great country and our state be affected by this anymore. And I just can't sleep at night some nights knowing that I can't be involved. I hold the election so pure to me that I think there's no better form of public service that anybody should do but to vote. And if you don't vote, I have a problem with your opinion at that point. Now, I don't have a problem with your opinion if you vote. I think it's very important that you show up, but show up. Just show up. And this country deserves that. So I just really felt very strong, convicted that I would not be able to sit on the sideline under our current national structure and be silent, because I will not be silent. And I just felt it would be best for me to remove myself from that, knowing that that's going to happen.
And Commissioner, I just want to say thank you for being up front and doing that. I'd a lot rather any of you say, hey, we've got a problem, we need to step down, than for us to get in a situation and then the public bring it up and say, well, Commissioner Pickens, why were you voting on so-and-so's ballot here when we know you're supporting somebody, that kind of thing. So it's
right.
It's a lot better to be up front. It makes it better for the staff, and we got to remember, it's the Putnam County Canvassing Board, not the elections office or whatever. So whoever is there is representing all of us. So we just want to make sure we do it the right way. So,
well, yes. Charles, I appreciate that, and I'll try to have somebody to present to the board at the next meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could real quick, Charles?
Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Harvey mentioned petitions. You said endorsement cards.
Right. Just signing the petition is not what the state was talking about. It's saying I'm going to, sign something stating I'm endorsing Commissioner Harvey, and I'm going to give it to Wayne over here, and he's going to put it in the paper as an ad or something that is actually verbal, where everybody knows, okay, I know how Jeff feels about this issue, or this person. That kind of thing. So it's not the petitions, because we all sign those for everybody.
That's
Well,
what I wanted to get clarified. Okay.
But I want to, Mr. Chairman, you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say I don't sign them just for everybody. I sign them for those who I support.
Right, and that's fine.
And I don't go out and ask people just to sign them because they can sign them, and just to sign them to get on the ballot. I support those people.
Right.
And that's one of my stances that I take. I don't care if everybody else takes that stand.
Right.
I take that
Right,
stand.
I understand. Yeah,
Thank
totally.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
One,
you, Charles.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Charles,
sir.
this can be a citizen rather than, it doesn't have to be a commissioner for this
Well,
appointment.
I mean, as we look at that, Commissioner Turner's running. Commissioner Harvey's taking himself off. Commissioner Goddard is running. You are running. But as of a couple of weeks ago, I called you and told you that the opponent had decided he was going to withdraw. So technically, you're back on because the statute says you're on the ballot, but that you have opposition. And as we speak right now, you're back in that category of no opposition. So technically, you would have that right to do it, but we still have 3 or 4 months that somebody could come in and qualify against any of us, so to speak.
Right.
So, you know, but if not, if it can't be a board member, then it has to go to the public, is what the statute says, and it can be anybody. Again, you got to keep in mind all of these factors, and you know, you wouldn't want to go and say, for, you know, somebody like Terry or Matt or somebody, you know, because they've already got other jobs that are high profile and that kind of thing. So, and that's what
You say you wouldn't go with one of them?
well, that's just, I mean, I'm not saying.
He said he would not.
That's what I heard, sir. You might be sick, but you're not that sick.
Just using them as examples, I mean, it could be, I'm not saying it's against statute. You can pick who you want, and as long as they can abide by the, you know, the few things that we need to make sure they don't cross over. And again, we're just looking at an alternate, so.
I kind of expected that Administrator Suggs wasn't going to be here today because he's had the flu for the last few days, and I was going to appoint him just to teach him he should have showed up here at this meeting.
That may have saved you, Terry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to come up with somebody. Thank you. County Attorney's comments, Rich Komando.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you. I just want to let everyone know I'm available if you have any questions, both by cell. I'll be spending some time down here in the office, or you can always give me a call at my office in Orange Park. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner requests, we'll start with Commissioner Rawls.
I have no requests. I will not be attending Rural Days in Tallahassee. I've had a situation in our company where one of our employees had a stroke and was kind of put us back a little bit. I did get to spend some time in Crescent City, though, under comments. And I was telling Commissioner Pickens that it's really different when you're working down there. You really get to see the community from a different perspective. Shopping in the Ace Hardware and their lumberyard was kind of neat. The Ace Hardware is actually a treasure. You guys really need to wrap that thing up and not change it because it has got some cool stuff.
It's old school, isn't it?
It is very neat, very neat. They have a scale where they weigh out nails, and I haven't seen that done in decades, probably. You know, with the employee that had the stroke, you know, getting back to that, it opened my eyes up to a lot of things. My health, for sure, and my eating habits were brought to light. And I really just want to say that you need to be attentive to the people around you, because he had this going on for about a week, and a lot of people noticed changes but didn't or connect the dots. So be attentive to the people around you, the people that you care about and love especially, because, you know, his happened in a moment, and it was, if everybody had been talking about it and not hiding it, it would have been discovered a lot early on and not had the results that it did. So we're praying that he has a full recovery. He is making a recovery right now and working at it. Otherwise, that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Goddard.
Well, Jeff, it's sad that those things do come up and we don't pay enough attention to that. But yeah, you do need to pay more attention to those around us. You never know. You never, ever know what can happen. I've had to deal with situations quite a few times in my life. As you know, I'm always going to say, get out and see Putnam County, as Jeff was just talking about. There are treasures all over the place. I try to tell people, if nothing else, go somewhere different and go eat. I mean, everybody wants to go out and eat. there's just so many neat places in Putnam County. It's horrendous. Rural County Days, that is an event where we get to represent Putnam County. Unfortunately, Mr. Rawls won't be there, but I think the rest of us are going to be up there. We will be representing Putnam County in a good light. The uniqueness, one of the things that I talked to the chief a while back, is we don't really have too many structure fires. What we have is a lot of forest fires, but we don't have fire hydrants. So we have to literally go out and suck water out of a pond or a lake or something to put the fire out. That's unique. It's great that we can do that, but it is unique to our county. And there's so many just really neat things about our county. I have really nothing to say other than go out and enjoy our county.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Pickens.
Thank you, Chairman Turner. Just want to mention that I'm looking forward to going up for Rural Days. This will be a little more relaxing Rural Days for the commissioners and staff that are going up there and department heads, because we won't have to cook 1,000 fish dinners. So anyway, so that'll be good. So other than that's all I got. I do want to thank my fellow commissioners for moving that agenda item to the next meeting, so we can get some public input on this and we'll make the right decision. So I appreciate y'all allowing this to happen and going with my request. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pickens. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few things. First, I'd like to thank staff. You know, I got my packet and I had some questions, went around, pretty much got them all answered really quick. Some things I had forgotten and was reminded. So, and what it brought to me was, it's a team. I couldn't remember all the things that we'd worked on in the past 6 years that I've been here, but people do. So it's a team effort, and I thank y'all that put up with me yesterday running around trying to get my answers done. Do you want to wish Alicia Morales a happy birthday? Her birthday's today. I scared her by saying I'd bring her in and we'd sing happy birthday, and she insisted that I not embarrass her, but I think I just did. So that's good. I do want to say that, Commissioners, I asked Mr. Suggs, and I hope it's okay with y'all, but I would like to lead the Census Committee count for the county. I think it's very important. Mr. Suggs has agreed that we'd work together, but it's important that we get this count right. And with that, there's going to be a meeting here in a couple weeks to kind of do a kickoff with that, and I'm looking forward to that. It's really, that's kind of been another burning issue in my heart, is to make sure that everyone's counted correctly in this county, because it's so important for us financially and for us as a community to have that situation. Do want to wish everybody a happy new year. This is our first meeting for the new year, and I look forward to the opportunities to serve. And just want to say this again, if you go to my Facebook page today, I'm the executive director of Save Rodman. There's no doubt about that. But I refer to it as Lake Ocklawaha because that's what the federal government has named it. Lake Ocklawaha is 19 feet above sea level with 21 billion gallons of fresh water sitting in that reservoir. And Commissioner Goddard, you're right. The opposition sings the praises of the reservoir for Lake Okeechobee and the Everglades, but want to destroy this one. This is our secondary water source. And if you look on my Facebook page, there's a map that was generated about how we're losing water in some of the areas of Florida. And especially South Florida does have saltwater intrusion coming in. We don't have that. And Mr. What's it? I just lost his name. Baptized Billy Graham, his father did. Come on. Lives out in Grandin.
Baptized Billy Graham?
His daddy did. Underwood, Mr. Underwood.
Oh, Cecil Underwood.
Yeah, Mr. Underwood has been doing a study for many, many years about the lake fluctuations when the spillway is open. And truly, I was not a water scientist, I'm not, but I made a comment to Representative Van Zant one Sunday at my house many, many years ago when he first got elected. There's got to be a direct correlation between my lake level and that dam, because the water goes down, and truly it does. So when you look at that, and you look at when you hear evaporation, I stood on the Senate floor and talked about the St. Johns River is sea level and barely moves, if you will. And with that, think about the evaporation of the St. Johns River. And evaporation goes up into the clouds, causes rain, and comes right back down again. So it's not like we're losing things. This is what the environment does. And that area out there, that watershed area, cleans up a multitude of counties. So I know we have people that stand here and try to convince us that we need to have these meetings. But again, it's the chicken and it's the pig going to breakfast. And the chicken makes the donation and the pig gives his life. I'm not willing to give my life for 21 billion gallons of water that we might need one day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Do we need to appoint you to the Census Committee? Is it a volunteer deal? Y'all got it handled?
Yeah, it's a volunteer.
Good. That's fine, but so you didn't need an appointment or any backup by us?
Not yet. If we do, we'll come to you.
You betcha. No problem. You betcha. I also am not going to be able to attend Rural Days this year. I have a conflict in my business schedule. It just will not allow me to get there. So I talked, before I did, I talked to Representative Payne to make sure that he didn't think that would be critical, and he let me out of class that day. So, so with that being said, if there's no more business come before the board today, the meeting stands adjourned.
Good job. Good job.